Hello, welcome to Sips of Wisdom, brewing stories of heritage and flavor, one cup at a time. I'm your host, Rochelle Gordon.
And I'm your co host, Tiffany Vakilian. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. How are you? Welcome.
Oh my gosh, we're doing this. Hi, everybody. Hello, interwebs.
My name is Rochelle.
And I am Tiffany.
And this is the Sip of Wisdom podcast. And today we are introducing generational Black pioneers
and
as
ourselves.
A podcast, and ourselves, yes. And our goal is really to just take you through a journey that we've been going on for the last 2 years. We've been telling stories about local pioneers, and our goal is to bring that to this podcast.
Yes. And I want to go on the record and say, first and foremost, I didn't realize I was a pioneer, but I am. I don't know of another Black-owned publishing company within the Tri-City area. I would love to be corrected. Honestly, I would love to be corrected. However, at this point, until I am a pioneer.
I'm also a pioneer.
But this is obvious.
I'm also a pioneer. And I am the owner of Bliss Tea and Treats, a tea room here in Oceanside. We specialize in artisan teas. And we started back in 2020, in the heart of the pandemic. Yes, we did.
I can't believe.
And we've been at it ever since. So our goal has really been looking at what are the needs of the community and how do we blend that up.
I like that. That was cute.
Beautiful brew. So today we are going to have some tea. We're going to talk about the history of how generational Black pioneers came to be. And then we'll just, throw in some other goodies along the way.
Yeah.
So
we have a lot to discuss. It's actually, I'm really excited about this. Our almost not quite maybe flagship episode.
Yes. Awesome. So yeah, let's get some tea in the cup.
Yeah. So our first segment we call Sips of Knowledge. And while there's tea in the cup, what we're actually going to talk about is the history of generational Black pioneers, which in a way is the history of how you and I met, of how you found out that I could sing, how generational Black pioneers became a performative situation, and how we're here.
Yes.
So break it down.
So cheers.
First cheers.
Cheers.
Okay.
So generational Black pioneers started because I got really curious. My business was downtown Oceanside, as you know, and I was the only Black-owned business downtown Oceanside, Black-owned restaurant downtown Oceanside, and I started getting curious about other businesses and where they were and so forth. And I contacted the Historical Society, asked her if she had any information about the history.
That's Christy. She's important.
Christy Hawthorne, you'll meet her soon. We talked about how very little documentation the city had around Black-owned businesses, and we decided to change that. So collectively, we started gathering information. We put a survey out to folks to ask them if they knew of any businesses, and information started coming in. So as we collected that information, I said, well, Christy, what are we going to do with it? Why don't we do a production? And we had no idea how we were going to do it, how it was going to come about, but we just put it out there into the universe, and the universe delivered to us what was generational Black pioneers. I contacted Linda Bissesti, who you'll meet next week, and she is our director. Invited her to come down from LA to direct and help us find the cast and put it all together. So magically, we were able to take these stories of these amazing
so wait, how did you get the stories?
So the individuals that contacted us, or even that we contacted, business owners, we decided to focus on entrepreneurship our first year. And then the second year, we decided to focus on first. So when we identified individuals that we wanted to learn more about, we did interviews. So we sat down with them and recorded interviews. We took those interviews, transcribed them, and then created a script. So then Linda took that and created the production, the play. So that's how we were able to do that. So every one of the cast members we're actually embodying the real words
Right.
of the individuals that we interviewed. I mean, we really prided ourselves on using actual words that
Right.
they said.
Yeah.
So that's how we were able to put together the productions for year 1 and year 2.
And you are actually a part of the play.
Correct.
In year 1.
Yes.
Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Yes.
I know you don't want to.
So it's always easier to tell everyone else's story than to tell your own, but I also was included in the production, and they kept telling me, Rochelle, we need your story, we need your story. And I actually had to voice dictate my story because it was difficult for me to step outside of myself,
yeah,
and write my story. So I did the voice dictation, and then I transcribed it and I sent it to them. And I said, do what you must with it.
yes.
And they did. So yes, my story started 2020 when we opened during the pandemic, surviving the pandemic, surviving Black Lives Matter, windows broken
multiple times.
Just dealing with the turmoil that was happening during that phase,
right.
And being able to share that, seeing that on stage was really emotional.
Well, yeah,
it was very impactful because there was a lot, and I was living it, but being able to stop and just look at the story being told was really impactful. So I was inspired by the stories of others, but I was also inspired by my own story.
Yeah, which was
really special.
So this is where I come in. My girlfriend, who's an author, did her book launch at Bliss Tea and Treats. Mm-hmm. And she took me to Bliss Tea and Treats in downtown Oceanside when it was there, and said, "You've got to meet Rochelle. Got to meet Rochelle." I'm like, okay. I mean, it's tea. Whatever. I'm a coffee girl. Whatever. I'll taste tea. I am no longer a coffee girl. That's a whole nother story. But I met Rochelle, and from the minute I walked into the building, I felt like I had entered a space where, as a wonderfully whimsical Black woman, I felt seen, I felt accepted, I felt challenged in the best way. So yes, find your bliss, have tea. What was the theme at the time? I want to say the theme at the time was, it was Mad Hatter. And so, of course, me being me, I'm like, you've got to go to this place. And so I start bringing my friends through, and we start talking. And I say to her, you got to write a book. Now, I didn't know at this point that Generational Black Pioneers was becoming a play. I just knew that I was enamored with this woman's drive and her goal setting and her goal reaching. And then...
And the fact that we were in full costume.
Yes, because don't get me started on when she had her Bridgerton moments. Let me tell you. Anyway, so then the Oceanside Cultural Arts Foundation needed a venue, and one of your ways of giving back was to let Oceanside Cultural Arts Foundation use a venue for no fee. So then I'm performing for OCAF, and she hears me sing Strange Fruit, and she says, oh my gosh. And then this is how she heard me sing. And I was just happy to be at Bliss because I knew they were serving the sandwiches. My favorite is the Italian. Anybody who knows me knows that I love that sandwich. That and the caramel walnut shortbread tea. But anyway, a few months later, I see online that there's a list of, hey, are you a Black business owner? Because you had put the online survey out. And so I fill out my information and put it in there. And then a few weeks after that, Rochelle reaches out to me and says, Tiffany, we're doing this thing and we need another singer. And we're wondering if you'll come in and sing I Won't Complain for the owner, in tribute to the owner of Felix's soul food restaurant. And I said, sure. Like, I get paid to sing and I get your food? Yeah, okay. This is great. So I did it. But as I watched the characters come alive through their words, through these amazing Black actors, I knew that we were a part of something that was so much bigger than what we had originally thought. It wasn't, and
Yeah.
I told Rochelle, whatever you're doing, whatever you're doing, let me know how I can support it because 100 years from now, if Jesus tarries, 100 years from now, you're in history books because of everything you're doing right now. And who knew? I'm a publisher. I'm all about getting that book out, which after a short break, we will be talking about after the next segment. We will be talking about Rochelle's book. So hold on tight, and we'll be back soon for tea time.
Yes.
3, 2. And we're back. So now it's time for tea time.
More tea time.
Tea time.
So
what is this you made again?
So this is a chai that we're having. And I know that you've often asked about tea dust. So I brought a tea bag so that I can explain to you the grading of teas and the difference.
Why don't we start with the history of tea? Because the way you broke it down and talking about the man who fell asleep. Okay. So let's talk about the history of tea, and then we can talk about tea dirt.
So as we talk about history here in Oceanside, we also should talk about the history of tea and how we've actually gotten here to be able to enjoy this cup of tea today. So the story is told that an emperor fell asleep under a tree, and he had a bowl of water next to him. And when he woke up, there were tea leaves in his bowl, and the sun warmed them to the point where he then had tea.
The sun steeped tea.
So lucky for him, he was sleeping under a Camellia sinensis plant that has now gifted us with the gift of tea that we get to enjoy today.
Thank you, sir.
So some people don't realize that Camellia sinensis is actually the origin name of tea. That plant itself, just like grapes do for wine, that plant itself actually is processed differently. And as a result, we have white tea, we have yellow tea, we have green tea, we have black tea, all of which come from this one plant. So the same way how we celebrate the grapes and the wine, we celebrate the Camellia sinensis and the different varieties of teas that we get to enjoy.
Varieties of teas. And then you were saying something about grades of tea?
Yes. So tea is graded. So if you can imagine, they are, all of these people are out in the fields and they're picking the tea leaves. And the way they actually pick the tea leaves also determines the value of the tea, right? So like a Darjeeling tea, could be a first blush, which means the very, very first bit of leaves on the bush, right? So that could be a higher grade of tea because it's new and it's the freshest bud. But the way they grade the tea is actually really interesting because if you can imagine that when tea first came to the Americas, it came in a tea bag, but this really was just supposed to be a sample of the tea. It wasn't supposed to be the way we consume tea. So the way we consume tea is actually with the loose leaf tea.
So it's supposed to be the leaves.
It's supposed to be the leaves. You're supposed to enjoy the actual tea leaves. That's the highest grade.
Right.
Of tea. When it gets down to tea dust, that's just like the remnants that has been left over. The leftovers.
The Rudy Poo.
Yes, all of that. Like if you just think of a room and they pull out all the good stuff and whatever is left, that actually gets dumped.
The stuff that actually gets swept into a bag.
Yes. That gets tossed into the tea bag.
And so we're paying for that. That's what we're paying. We're drinking tea dirt am paying to drink the tea dirt, the dirt.
Well, we won't call it dirt.
Okay.
We'll call it dust. We'll call it
Okay,
tea dust.
it's called tea dust. Okay.
So if you are at home and you have a tea bag handy, just rip that tea bag open and pour out what's in it.
Inquiring minds want to know, don't that look like dirt?
It does look like dirt.
Okay.
But we'll call it dust.
Okay.
Okay, so this is not what tea is supposed to look like, ever. Maybe coffee, ground.
Okay.
Maybe that's
Shots
what coffee.
fired.
That's what coffee is supposed to look like,
It's okay.
but not tea. So
I'm still in mourning.
when
You
you-
ain't have to do all that.
when you consume tea, you want it to look like tea leaves, the dried version of tea leaves. Right.
Like
The
this
whole
other thing
the
here
whole
you
leaf.
have.
Yeah, so this is actually similar, but it's valerian.
Mhm.
Valerian, this is the dried root of valerian, and that is included in our sleep tea that we make. Valerian actually helps you to sleep. It helps you to relax. It stimulates the place in your brain that
What's it
allows
called?
you to
GABA.
the GABA, the
Yeah.
GABA part of your brain. I know when I read that, I thought that was so funny. I was like, the GABA part of my brain is going to relax with my valerian. Yes. So I would suggest
Don't look at me.
every opportunity you have to have whole leaf
Yes.
tea when possible. The only
And not
opportunity
tea
that you won't do that is if you have like a matcha tea,
Where
because
it's actually ground.
it's actually ground.
But then it's
Yeah.
powder. But it's powder.
But it's the full leaf.
It's the full leaf
It's the
as
full
a
leaf.
powder,
Right.
not
Right.
that not the leftovers.
Right.
It's still a whole.
And then
tea.
when you're having matcha, because you're consuming the whole leaf, like you're not just straining it,
Right.
you're actually consuming it, you definitely want to make sure it's organic.
Yeah.
So that there's no
Ew.
pesticides or anything on
Yeah.
it, because then you're actually consuming it
Okay.
into your body. But at all costs, you still want to get organic teas because still, you
Yeah.
know, it's something that you're consuming.
You said something earlier today about how you grew up in Panama, and your mom would send you out to get leaves.
Mhm.
Like if somebody was feeling a certain way, she would send you out for a specific leaf, and she would cook it.
Right.
And you said that's not good.
Right. So it's considered bush tea,
Mhm.
right? So most of the Caribbean,
Right.
Central South America grew up on bush tea. And
Mhm.
what that is everyone is growing stuff in their yard.
Right.
So I just grew up growing stuff in my yard. I still have herbs that I grow in my yard.
Yeah.
Right? So let's say, you know, I have high blood pressure and I go out and I pull some thyme leaves and I put that in the pot and have that as a tea. That's going to lower my
Because
blood
that's
pressure.
literally one of the benefits of the leaves, not necessarily the actual fruit, seed, nut, grain thing. But you said we could have fruit tea, because she had this one called cotton candy, y'all. And when I tell you, you can taste cotton, you can taste candy, you can taste the entire park. And my favorite, caramel walnut shortbread. You can taste caramel, you can taste walnut, you can taste shortbread. I don't know how she does it. I don't need to know. I just need you to bring me some.
Well, the thing is with, you know, the different kind of varieties of teas that are out there. So the herbal teas are really good. They're fun. The rooibos has a natural, it's a red bush out of South Africa. It has a natural sweetness to it.
One of my
you can
favorites
only get
to
that.
have is dust back before I knew better.
Right. You can only get it in South Africa because that bush is native to there. And the beautiful thing about it is it has a natural sweetness to it. So
Yes,
then
it does.
you add flavoring to it and you get these beautiful teas as a result. Most dessert teas are actually made with a rooibos tea. You get this beautiful tea and it has no calories. And it's just a wonderful trick to your brain to think, oh yeah, I'm having a caramel walnut shortbread cookie, but you're not. Right, but it tastes like
And I
it.
never had to add the sugar. I felt so good and so bad at the same time. I was
It's a
this
beautiful
girl.
thing. So
Pat
even with
yourself
like
on
the
the back.
cotton candy tea, you know, it's fruit bits that are dried and you put them together, and you know, there's even fruits like rhubarb in there, and it's not native.
Don't sleep on rhubarb.
Yeah, it's not something that we normally would consume here. You know, it's not a typical fruit that we have here. But in other parts of the world, a lot of people do have
I
rhubarb.
love strawberry rhubarb pie, like better than strawberry pie.
Yeah.
I don't. It does it for me. It does it for me. But you have a very specific tea that I want to talk about because in a future episode coming soon, we, not quite 17-year-old ladies, I know, we're
It's hard to
vampires.
believe. I know it's hard to believe.
Are in our various stages of peri, pre, full, post. We're on a journey through a town called menopause. Some of us just got their ticket stamped, and some of us are trying to leave it. And one of the things that menopause affects is your hair, your follicles, the growth, the retention. And so our apothecary of tea goodness over here created hair tea.
Hair tea.
Yes, you did.
I did. And you know what? The reason why I created this is because, and this is actually the one that I'm using that I'm going to give to you. So the reason why I created hair tea is because years ago, probably about 6 years ago, I went through I had a keratin treatment done on my hair, and my hair fell out. Like, I would just touch it and clumps would just come out. It was the worst experience ever. And it's one thing to cut your hair off, because for many, many years, most people that know me know that I used to wear my hair short. For most of my 20s and 30s, I had the short.
I didn't meet her until 20s. I met her in her 40s. Best time, child.
Yes. But it's one thing to cut your hair off. It's another thing for your hair to fall out.
Yeah, that's
right? It's a really traumatic experience for anyone that.
And a reason for hat wearing. We will get to this, but this is not the ministry to discuss today.
Right. So one of the things that I learned on this journey, because my mom happened to be in Panama at the time when this was happening, she came back and she said, well, when I was in Panama, I asked the girls what they were putting in their hair, and they said rosemary. And they told her that they were just making a tea with the rosemary.
I had rosemary at home. You mean this whole time, my bush, which is about 4 times bigger than it needs to be in the space that it is, I've been breaking pieces off and cooking with it to try and kind of beat it back. You mean I could have made a tea with it?
Yeah. So we process the rosemary, clean it, like do the whole thing, and we make the tea with it. And it requires a lot of straining and so forth. But so I did that for about a year, and my hair came back. So what I did was I wore my hair. It's ironic that I have braids in my hair right now.
I'm getting braids next week. It's going to be a different look.
So what I would do is I would literally just put
Like right now?
Yeah, I would just put it in my hair. So it did a couple things. It stimulates your hair follicles, right, when you pour it on. But what it also does is I used to have like a dandruff patch right here, and it got rid of the dandruff patch. So it alleviates dry scalp, which was not something that I thought it was going to do. It just happened to do it.
Right.
And then your hair gets kind of a nice shine to it. Like, it gives it a nice sheen. So it was doing some things that I didn't intend for it to do, but it was
a good thing.
It was a good,
yeah. That is so interesting.
Byproduct. So yeah, this hair tea has really been a saving grace for me. And now that I'm in a menopause phase of my life, I find that my hair is
See how
stronger.
she did that? You see how she sent it over?
My hair is stronger and thicker than it's expected to be. I have a lot of thick, strong hair, and I think it is a result of the rosemary, because it's something that I just use so often. It's not something that I use.
You're feeding your scalp, you're feeding your follicles, and it's not something that's going to weigh down the hair anyway.
Right, because there's no oil.
Yeah.
It's not making it clumpy. If my scalp feels itchy from being in the braids, I use this and it soothes it because it's very soothing. When you first get braids and it's tight, you kind of just want to like sit under the shower and just like let it calm. Instead of doing that, I just use the rosemary, and it just gives it nice soothing,
Interesting.
refreshing feeling. And I've been able to actually use synthetic hair now as opposed to only being able to use human hair. Because in the past I could only use human hair.
Because it was just not.
Yeah, it was just too much. It was too itchy. The first couple, the first couple days of it is just really difficult.
Yeah.
So yeah, I use this all the time. It's not something you have to rinse out.
Right.
So when I opened Bliss, I thought, well, maybe I should just make this available.
Yeah.
Right.
So I have purchased it, but I haven't been using it right, apparently. Because I would only use it when I was doing my wash days.
Right.
So I would wash.
You can use it all the time.
And then rinse, and then do that, and then moisturize.
Yeah.
And now you're saying, no, this is an all day, all the time thing.
All day, all the time.
Okay.
Yeah, you can use it anytime. You don't have to rinse it out.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to use it only on your wash days. You can use it anytime. Like I have it on my sink, on my cabinet, in my bathroom. And I just pour it on whenever I feel like it.
Whenever. Okay.
And it's not something I only use when I have braids in. I use it all the time. So let's say I'm slicking my hair back, right? And putting it in a bun. Well, instead of using water, I'll use this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Want to spritz down my hair, spritz it down with that.
Right.
Okay.
Because sometimes the water can actually have
especially the water around here.
Effect. Yeah, this might be too harsh.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So I use this and it just feels like I'm nourishing my hair as opposed to causing damage by constantly putting water on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is something that's really important. One of the things that I love about my hair journey is things you're going to learn as we continue with this. The different ways that my body has been responding to different aspects of my life now. Your child is a teenager. My children are still, one of them hasn't even started school yet. And so with my energy levels and my sleep levels and things like that, there's also the little one climbing in the bed in the middle of the night because he or she needs to be soothed. And all those things, because sleep affects your hair growth too. I got really sick at the beginning of 2024, and I'm just now getting back to the point where I'm feeling like I can take on new challenges. I can take on new things. I'm no longer in, I'm no longer in recovery. I'm in the place where I'm trying to take ground now. And one of those areas is my hair. Like I said, we're not going to have this. This could be a whole podcast channel. And I've been looking at different things and trying to figure out what is going on with my hair journey. And one of the things I just found out was how cute my curl pattern is. My cute little, most cute little 4C situation is tight. But we had been talking about the hair tea because like I said, I would only use it during my wash day and only as a part of the process on that front. Now I'm thinking, you know what? I got that thing of water that I spray on my daughter's hair every day. I could put the rosemary in that thing, and maybe even...
Because her hair might be feeling dry.
Her hair does feel dry.
Yeah.
Her hair...
All that water.
All the water. And with my daughter's hair, because she's biracial, she's got, I call them beautiful naps. She's got the same curl pattern as me. They're just a bigger curl pattern. So when she brushes her hair out, it'll take up this whole room if we brush it out the right way. But when it's wet and it's moisturized down, she gets these beautiful waves with ringlets at the bottom, which is the exact same type as my hair, where I get waves with ringlets at the bottom. It's this beautiful thing, but hers is just different because of that little bit of extra Persian German influence. And so the dryness is real. And she, my loving child, who I love dearly, is still learning how important it is to drink water, to drink more water, to keep hydrated. And so one of the things I learned this year also is one of the first things to go when your body is in healing mode is hair and nails. Your body's trying to take care of these vital organs, trying to get them to act right, trying to get them to pump out the right vitamins, nutrients, enzymes, hormones, and things like that. And so the hair, gone. Nails, gone. I didn't realize I had been sick for at least 2 years. I didn't even know. So all that time I was coming out and visiting you and couldn't figure out, and they had me on heart monitors and all the different things. it's things like this where it's these are natural remedies,
Mm-hmm.
and they are coming from people who care about me. And that's another reason why I love generational Black pioneers, because hearing about the various people who are still alive in Oceanside, in California, in Vista, California, San Marcos, Escondido, all of San Diego County. These people are affecting our current life, our future, and have already affected history in real time. Terry Johnson is still alive.
Right.
The
Well, the reason why
you
it
know,
was so urgent to do the productions now is
Mhm.
because, and to capture these stories, is because 80 years ago, when African Americans first came to Oceanside, um, through Camp Pendleton, most of them were in the military, and that's what brought them here. Um, they were doing all of these things, but nobody knew who they were,
Mhm.
right? So being able to capture their stories now, before they're no longer with us, was important,
Right.
So it
Some
is
people
important to
here.
be able to serve as the griot in the community, to be able to capture these stories and retell them,
Yeah.
so that we don't lose them.
Yeah.
Because if we don't tell these stories, they get lost.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
Same thing with recipes. If we don't capture the recipes of our ancestors,
and not
then they
just
get
for
lost.
the marketing of the recipe, but for the having of the recipe.
Right.
I'm so down for all this, but that's why you need to write your book, which is actually our next segment. So we're going to take a little break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about writing journeys, specifically yours, ma'am.
Yes.
Yeah. So we'll be right back. All right, everybody, we're back. It's time to take a sip of that beautiful thing called a writing journey. I am a publisher. I'm also a best-selling author, and my story came from my life as what I have seen. Some of the best stories come from, even if they're fantasy novels, they're based on human, real-life experiences and histories. I was pregnant, didn't even know it, and then I found out. Then it came with pain, and that pain turned into infant loss, which is a whole new kind of pain. And then 3 months after that, my older brother passed away, adding to that pain. And I couldn't process my mourning my son, because every time I would bring up Moses, someone would bring up my brother Andrew and the minutia of getting him back in country, because he passed away in Costa Rica. He was doing what he felt was the right thing to do, the work of the Lord, and he was a missionary, and he was there. But because he was there was a whole big thing with the way they treated him in the hospital, and he passed away in Costa Rica.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't talk about my son, and it got to the point where I couldn't talk about my son. So one day I wrote out. I'd been journaling.
You couldn't talk about him because you're busy.
No, I couldn't talk
mourning.
about him because it had been shoved so far down. Because whenever I would talk about, Moses, just thinking about the possibilities that were happening, because he was only 16 weeks when I gave birth to him. Someone would inevitably say, "Yeah, and Andrew,"
Mm-hmm.
and so there was that. So I wrote out some of my journals, and then I collected them together and I sent them to my girlfriend, because it was just this like pressure cooking, like something had to give. And a few days passed, and she calls me back, and she just starts crying. And when she started crying, I felt like I could breathe. Like I felt like I could just have this moment specifically and only about my son. And it didn't take away from my older brother. It was just, it belonged to him and him alone. And that's when I learned that holding those kinds of stories in, it can kill you. Getting those stories out can sometimes be the only cure. And the third thing I learned was, when we tell our stories to others, we become like a weapon for good against lies and against, half truths. And so that's why I became a publisher. I published my book. It became a bestseller. I became a publisher. I'm helping other bestsellers and other people who just haven't reached that goal yet. And one of the people that I am ardently chasing down to get done is this lady right here. Because not only is she a generational Black pioneer, she's a Black-owned business on her feet. And I mean, she threw this tea together with parts. I can't wait till next week when we're sipping on something that came from her garden. I'm looking forward to it, really. So I want you to take a minute and
So when we tell our stories, we make space
yes,
for more to brew.
yeah, okay, like what you did there.
Yes. Okay. I do believe that. I do believe that we have to make space for that.
Absolutely.
And releasing it into the world, make space for it. So
Yeah.
I am committed.
Yeah.
I am. And that is something that we will be taking on this journey with us, right? So I've committed to Tiffany that as part of this podcast, I will start the process of writing the book, and that will be a part of our journey together.
I'm proud of you.
Here.
You heard it. That is, it's out there now.
So if there's a journey that you want to be on, that you need to release into the world, we encourage you to do that as well as we go on this journey together.
I'm sorry for interrupting, sweetie. But matter of fact, let's think about that. Do you know a local hero in your area? Are you a local hero in your area? As in a mom, a dad, a human being on this planet who has survived adversity, trauma. Just being if you survived COVID in America, you have a story to tell. That's just one opportunity. Not even talking about racial constructs, not talking about ethnicity, not talking about gender. There's so many things that could be variables within this. But for a minute to talk about the tea book specifically, you said you're a big nerd for tea. I don't know if that's how you said it, but that's what I felt like. I'm a nerd for some things. I'm a geek for other things. But when you said I studied tea, I geek about tea.
I never knew that that's something that I would get excited about. When I decided to open a tea room to make tea available, I felt like I needed to be a subject matter expert. So
all the more reason to write a book, by the way.
True. So in my quest to become a subject matter expert, I find the World Tea Academy, where I can get a certification in tea. So I start taking these online classes, and when you're doing a certification in tea, they're sending you a lot of tea to drink. So you're learning, but you're also drinking a lot of tea, and you're studying them and comparing them, and in that process, I realized how much I was enjoying it. Like I thought I was like a mad scientist sometimes, because I'm sitting here and I have all of these teas and I'm tasting them and I'm looking at the origin and the
cotton candy, love potion, Tulsi orange. Those are the ones I can think of off the top. Roasted almond.
Well, those teas actually came from my wanting to have fun teas that people can order when they're having tea experience. However, what I got really excited about was all of the origins they come from, all of the countries, that you can go and get all these different kinds of teas. And so that's what I geek out about. And I go to bookstores and I just sit there and I
read
tea books.
So now you're about to write about it.
Right. And it's always what inspired me to actually write a book is that there's such few books on the bookshelves.
And the fact that you could be a Black woman writing about tea from the Black experience perspective, that to me, I think is going to be a gem of diaspora. And not for nothing, because now that I almost can't have caffeine. It's so nice to feel so like I haven't lost anything by not having flavored tea flavored coffee or a specific brand of coffee, because now I got all the world, you know, as a tea.
Mm-hmm.
And you can just put that bad boy in a cup, and you be in Africa, you can be in Canada, you can be in the UK,
Right.
all based
Right.
on what tea you're drinking at that
Right.
moment. And I wasn't going to bring this up, but I do want you to talk real quick before we do closing thoughts about your nighttime tea routine. I think it's adorable, and
Yes.
you need to tell us so we can all level up.
Yes, you all should level up, because this, if you're not doing this at night, you are really cutting yourself short. So I have actually, have a tray that I use.
Watch your table. Oh my gosh.
Sorry. I have a tray that I use, and I have my tea contraptions that I put my tea in. It might be this, it might be a teapot, it might be one of the dispensers where the tea is dispensed from the bottom. Either way, every night I have my tea ritual. And sometimes, I have tea throughout the day, so every morning I'm having a tea. Usually I have my caffeinated tea in the morning, and then in the evening I'm having a herbal tea.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always my sleep tea.
Mm.
Sometimes I just
ask,
I go to my tea cabinet and I'm like, who's calling me today? Like what tea leaves are calling me? Like yesterday, I felt a little down, and I felt like my oolong was calling me. So I had oolong tea.
And sat there and sipped it good?
And sipped it and was just like, oolong kind of does something special to me. It kind of gives me a level of energy, and it's just like a peacefulness. And sometimes the Darjeeling is calling me, and sometimes the baklava is calling me. So, I stand.
Girl got baklava tea, y'all.
We have baklava tea. So sometimes I stand in my tea cabinet.
I think we need pictures of this tea cabinet, because it's going to be crazy.
and I just stand there, and it's like, I just give myself a moment to take it in, and that's how I choose my morning tea. And I do the same thing with my evening tea. It's like, what am I feeling right now? And I think that makes it even more special. Because it's not like my go-to tea is the same every single night or every morning. It's like,
you're not the same person every single night.
Right. Yeah. And sometimes you feel something different. And then
we are literally going through changes right now.
Right. So like I'll pair it with something like, just some crackers and maybe some cheese or some fruit.
Almost like you're having a wine down, right, but it's with tea.
With tea.
Okay.
So instead of a wine down, I'm doing a tea down.
She said, I'm tea down. Just like we have our little sips of tea right here. We do a tea down.
And I do that every night. And it's just my routine, my ritual at night. And it really just kind of helps to set the tone of, okay, this is my wind down. So, not my wind down, my tea down.
My tea down.
We got to coin that. So yeah, it is an important ritual, and I think that it's something that people should practice more, because I think a lot of times people think, okay, it's bedtime, and bedtime starts when you hop in the bed, but really bedtime starts when you set the intention of bedtime, and it's, getting your experience together, and sometimes that experience may include an app, playing calm, tone so that it relaxes you. I usually tell people when they're having sleep tea, start that process like at least an hour before you're actually ready to go to bed. Like start getting your sleep tea, drinking it so you can it absorbs into your system, and then you can slowly relax.
Yeah, slowly relax.
Right, as opposed to I hop in the bed and I think I'm just supposed to fall asleep right away. Well, your brain kind of needs time to calm down,
to accept that the rhythm is going down,
right? So when you set the intention that it's bedtime, sometimes that also includes getting your tea down journey in place as well. So yeah, that's something that we've done. I started this with Iris when she was younger, my daughter, and we would sit in bed and have tea, and that's actually how Bliss came about. Is we were sitting in bed having tea. She said, Mom, does everyone have tea before they go to bed? And I said, I don't know, but maybe we should share our tea with them. And our dog Bliss was laying there next to the bed, and I said, maybe we should open a tea room and name the tea room after Bliss.
Oh my God.
And she said, yeah, as long as we have treats to go along with it. Typical, right?
Yes, come on.
So, and that's how the name came about. So
Bliss
she had
Tea
some
and
paper.
Treats.
She had some paper. She doodled the logo, and that's how we started.
Yeah.
That's how we started. So yeah, it's definitely an amazing ritual that I think you can share with everyone, right?
Mm-hmm.
With your kids, giving them an alternative.
Yeah.
Before they go to bed or before they go to school in the morning.
Yeah. Well, I can't do it in the morning. It's chaotic.
It's
in the
chaos.
morning.
Yeah.
Ooh, child. But well, oh my gosh, just like that, we're running out of time.
Yes.
Any closing thoughts from you?
This has been wonderful sharing this time with you. Thank you for having tea with me.
Yes.
And thank you guys for joining us. And we look forward to sharing these stories with you guys. We look forward to bringing some of our pioneers in. Next week, we will have Linda Bissesti, who was our director for the last 2 years, having her come and share her journey with us. And something you would hear Linda say is, she will always remind us that she is not Black.
It's really hard to tell.
Yeah. But I think that it's important for her to share her journey because not being Black, but really honoring the Black experience
the way that she did,
is so touching and so honorable. The way she embraced these stories and was so transparent and authentic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we had some weird moments there where some tough questions were asked, and she had to listen to us as we processed active opposition, if you will.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So my closing thought is ditto.
Yes. Yes. So we look forward to seeing you guys next week.
Yes.
Come back and join us again. And if you have any questions, feel free to send them to us at generationalpioneers@gmail.com.
Generationalpioneers@gmail.com. We will sip with you again soon.
Yes.